November 14, 1968, 7:02 a.m. On a deserted Detroit street, an armored van carrying $3.2 million vanishes in minutes. No witnesses. No gunfire. Just the sting of pepper spray and an empty vehicle. Who pulled off the heist of the century? And why, 57 years later, does the truth remain buried? Detroit, November 14, 1968, 6:42 a.m. A frigid autumn morning blankets the city's industrial River Rouge district, where factory smokestacks churn gray plumes into the sky, and the air carries the sharp tang of motor oil mixed with coffee from nearby diners. This is the beating heart of America's auto industry, where General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler plants hum around the clock. Narrow streets, lined with delivery trucks, snake through warehouses and loading docks, where forklifts buzz and workers in grease-stained coveralls hustle to their shifts. On one such street, near Warehouse 17, an armored van from Securetrans sits in a fenced lot. It's a drab, gray vehicle, but its 2-inch thick steel plating and bulletproof windows conceal its precious cargo. $3.2 million in cash, stuffed into canvas bags for General Motors' payroll of 12,000 workers. The van is parked in a lot surrounded by an 8-foot chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. 2 armed guards, each carrying a Smith & Wesson revolver, sit in the cab. The driver, Eddie Crow, 38, a weathered Union man with tired eyes, flips through paperwork before the scheduled departure. Eddie has driven cash routes for Securetrans for 15 years, his hands steady but his mind elsewhere. His partner, Bill Martinez, younger and jumpier, taps nervously on the dashboard. They're set to leave at 7 a.m., but something feels off. Eddie, usually quiet, keeps glancing at the side mirror. Frank Donovan watches from a Dodge pickup parked 2 blocks away. At 42, he looks older, gray streaks in his hair, deep lines etched into his face, clad in a worn leather jacket. Once a fiery union advocate, Frank's life has unraveled over 5 years of bad bets at the racetrack. He owes $45,000 to local bookies, and his 19-year-old daughter, Mary, doesn't know her college tuition comes from his last savings. Frank knows every inch of Securetrans routes, having helped design them for the Union years ago. Today he's orchestrating not just a robbery but the perfect crime. No violence, no traces, no witnesses. The plan. The heist took 3 months to prepare. Frank assembled a 4-man crew. Himself, Eddie Crow, the inside man, Ray Sullivan, a mechanic skilled at disabling alarms, and Charlie Wilson, a taciturn Vietnam vet and getaway driver. They knew the payroll van left Warehouse 17 every Friday at 7 a.m., heading 14 miles to GM's downtown office. The route cuts through the industrial district, where early mornings are quiet but chaotic with delivery trucks. Frank chose the strike point, a tight curve on Grand Street, where the van must slow to 15 miles per hour due to potholes and parked vehicles. 6:58 a.m. Eddie pulls the van out of the lot. Bill Martinez grumbles about the cold, but Eddie only nods, his hands tight on the wheel. His pulse races, not from fear but anticipation. In moments, a situation will unfold on Grand Street. Frank promised it would be clean, no shots fired. Eddie's cut is $200,000, but money isn't his only motive. Securetrans paid him pennies for years, and the union he served for 15 years turned its back when his wife fell ill. This is my way out, he thinks, gripping the wheel harder. On Grand Street, 200 yards from the curve, an old GMC truck blocks half the road. Charlie Wilson's doing. He's under the hood, pretending to fix the engine, tools scattered on the asphalt. Nearby, hidden in the shadow of a warehouse, Ray Sullivan holds a walkie-talkie, waiting for Frank's signal. Ray, 35, with an anchor tattoo on his forearm, is a former mechanic fired for stealing parts. He joined for quick cash but feels uneasy. If this goes south, I'm not doing time. 7:02 a.m. The van nears the curve. Eddie slows deliberately, sighting the parked truck. Bill mutters, "Why do these idiots always park like that?" Eddie stays silent. Suddenly, a black Ford Econoline with no plates pulls out from an alley. It happens fast. 2 men in black ski masks, Frank and Ray, leap from the Ford, wielding not guns but modified pepper spray canisters with extended range. Frank sprays gas through a crack in the van's side window. Bill screams, clutching his eyes, while Eddie feigns choking and slams the brakes. Ray, using a custom tool, pries open the van's rear doors in 18 seconds. The alarm should have triggered, But Eddie sabotaged a wire earlier, a subtle tweak no one would notice for hours. Frank and Ray grabbed 6 canvas bags, each weighing 40 pounds, and tossed them into the Ford. Charlie revs the engine. The entire job takes 2 minutes 43 seconds. No shots, no witnesses. A warehouse worker 300 yards away sees the black van speed off but thinks nothing of it. 7:06 a.m. Eddie, coughing, stumbles out with Bill. Both are teary from the gas, but Eddie plays the victim flawlessly. "They came out of nowhere," he shouts into the radio. Police arrive 12 minutes later, but the thieves are gone. Left behind, an empty van, tire marks, and the faint sting of pepper spray in the air. FBI report, November 14, 1968. Robbery occurred at 7:02 a.m. on Grand Street, Detroit, $3.2 million in cash stolen. Guard William Martinez and driver Edward Crow reported an attack by 2 masked individuals. No evidence of firearms or violence. Van alarm failed due to technical malfunction. Initial crime scene analysis revealed no fingerprints or significant evidence. Back in his South Detroit apartment, Frank can't sleep. The cash is stashed in an abandoned warehouse outside town, but paranoia gnaws at him. What if Eddie talks? What if Charlie wants a bigger cut? His daughter Mary's voice echoes in his mind. "Dad, why are you always so tense?" The money is his ticket to a new life, but the cost might be steeper than he imagined. Eddie, sipping black coffee in a diner after police questioning, stares out the window. His wife, Ellen, died 2 years ago, and he still blames himself for not affording her treatment. This is for her, he tells himself, but anxiety tightens his chest. Bill Martinez seemed oblivious during questioning, but Eddie caught him staring, too long, too carefully. 2 days later, the FBI receives an anonymous call. A muffled voice says, "Check the Union." Someone knew the route. The line goes dead. FBI agent Thomas Reed, 34, newly assigned to the case, realizes this isn't just a robbery, it's a conspiracy with deeper roots. Who made the call? And why didn't they name names? The Grand Street heist becomes Detroit's crime of the century. Newspapers scream headlines and the FBI faces a mystery. How did the thieves know the exact time and route? Who orchestrated the plan? And where is the $3.2 million? As Frank and his crew lie low, the anonymous call casts a shadow over the investigation, promising more revelations. Detroit, November 1968. The city buzzes with rumors about the Grand Street heist. Local papers call it the Vanishing Millions, and radio hosts speculate wildly about mob involvement or rogue cops. The FBI's Detroit field office, a squat brick building downtown, is a hive of activity. Agent Thomas Reed, 34, lean and intense with a habit of chewing matchsticks, leads the investigation. His desk is buried under stacks of secure trans schedules, witness statements, and grainy photos of tire marks. Reed's been with the Bureau 5 years, mostly chasing car theft rings, but this case feels different. Bigger, slipperier. The anonymous tip about the Union gnaws at him. "Someone on the inside," he mutters, circling names on a Union roster. The crime scene yields little. The van's sabotaged alarm wire, cut with surgical precision, suggests insider knowledge. No fingerprints, no stray hairs, no drop tools. The pepper spray residue matches a commercial brand sold at hardware stores across Michigan, useless for narrowing suspects. The black Ford Econoline used in the heist was found burned out in an abandoned lot 10 miles away, its VIN scraped clean. Professionals, Reed tells his partner, Agent Laura Hensley, a sharp 29-year-old rookie with a knack for financial trails. They didn't just plan the hit, they planned the cleanup. The FBI interviews Eddie Crow and Bill Martinez repeatedly. Bill, still shaken, describes the attackers as ghosts, fast, no faces, no words. Eddie's story aligns perfectly: 2 masked men, pepper spray, a blitz attack. But Reed notices Eddie's calm demeanor, his answers too polished. "He's not sweating enough," Reed tells Hensley after one session. Bill, meanwhile, seems genuinely rattled, his hands trembling as he recounts the burning in his eyes. The FBI runs background checks. Eddie's clean, save for medical debts from his late wife's illness. Bill's a family man with no red flags. Neither cracks under pressure, but Reed flags Eddie for closer scrutiny. The anonymous tip points to the United Auto Workers UAW, a powerhouse union tied to GM's payroll. Reed and Hensley visit the UAW's local office. A smoke-filled room where typewriters clack and men in cheap suits argue over contracts. Frank Donovan's name surfaces. A former shop steward, he's known for fiery speeches but has been quiet lately, skipping meetings. His file shows a steady job history until 1963, when he started missing work, rumored to be gambling. Donovan knew the payroll routes, a union rep admits reluctantly. Helped map them in '65. Reed's gut tells him Frank's involved, but there's no hard evidence, yet. Frank, holed up in a cheap motel on the city's edge, feels the walls closing in. The crew split the cash, $800,000 each, hidden in separate stashes, but tensions simmer. Ray Sullivan, the mechanic, is jittery, drinking heavily and muttering about too many eyes. Charlie Wilson, the getaway driver, stays silent but watches Frank like a hawk. Eddie Crow, back at work to avoid suspicion, calls Frank late at night. The feds are sniffing. They asked about my debts. Frank reassures him, but doubt creeps in. Did Eddie tip off the FBI to cover himself? Or was it someone else? On November 20, 1968, a break. A warehouse worker, Joe Tanner, 52, reports seeing a black van speed past his loading dock minutes after the heist. He didn't think much of it then, but a detail sticks out. The van's rear door had a dented corner. Reed cross-checks stolen vehicle reports and finds a Ford Econoline reported missing from a lot in Dearborn 2 weeks before the heist. The owner, a small-time contractor, claims it was locked. No way they hotwired it that fast, Reed says. They had keys. This points to preparation, maybe an inside job beyond Eddie. 2025, the case reopens. Fast forward to January 2025. The Grand Street heist is a cold case, a footnote in Detroit's crime history. But a new lead emerges. A retired FBI agent, now 80, donates his old case files to a university archive. Among them is a sealed envelope marked Grand Street, 1968, confidential. Inside, a handwritten note from Thomas Reed, dated 1970, hinting at a suppressed witness statement. The note mentions a woman, MD, who claimed to know the mastermind but refused to testify out of fear. The archivist alerts the FBI, and Agent Sarah Kim, 36, a cold case specialist, takes over. Kim, working from the FBI's modern Detroit office, uses advanced tools unavailable in 1968. She runs the case through ViceAP, a database cross-referencing crimes, and finds a pattern. 3 other heists in the Midwest from 1967 to 1970 used pepper spray and sabotaged alarms. She digs into Frank Donovan's life. He died in 1998, but his daughter, Mary Donovan, now 76, lives in Ann Arbor. Kim visits her, showing photos of the burned-out Ford. Mary's face tightens. "My father was troubled," she says softly. "He paid for my college in '69 cash. I never asked where it came from." Kim senses Mary knows more but holds back. Back to 1968. The FBI's net tightens. Reed tails Frank, observing him meet a man in a bar, a known bookie, Tony Rizzo. Wiretaps catch Rizzo bragging about a big score, but no names. Reed also uncovers a discrepancy in secure trans logs. The van's maintenance records show a routine check 2 days before the heist, signed off by an unknown mechanic. "That's our guy," Reed tells Hensley. They trace the signature to a fake name but hit a dead end. Meanwhile, Eddie starts acting erratic, missing shifts and avoiding Frank's calls. "He's gonna crack," Ray warns Frank during a tense meetup. Frank, chain-smoking, snaps, "Keep your head down or we're all done." Frank's nights are sleepless. He sees Mary's college acceptance letter on his table and imagines her future, free of his mistakes. But guilt eats at him. He justified the heist as a victimless crime. GM could afford the loss, but now he wonders if the feds are closer than he thinks. Eddie, meanwhile, is haunted by his wife's memory. During a late-night drive, he pulls over and stares at a photo of her, whispering, "I did it for you." But the anonymous tip haunts him. Was it Bill Martinez, suspicious of his calm during the heist? Or someone in the union? On December 1, 1968, a second anonymous call comes in. The voice, distorted, says, "Check the warehouse on Miller Road. You'll find something." Reed's team raids the abandoned warehouse where Frank stashed his cut. They find nothing, no cash, no bags, but a single cigarette but with traces of saliva. Forensic tech in 1968 can't analyze DNA, but Reed bags it, sensing it's a clue. The raid spooks Frank's crew. Ray accuses Frank of being careless, while Charlie, the quiet vet, buys a bus ticket out of town. "I'm done," he tells Frank, tossing his burner phone. The crew is fracturing and the FBI is circling. Agent Kim sends the 1968 cigarette butt for DNA analysis, now possible with modern tech. The results match a distant relative of Ray Sullivan in a genealogy database. Ray, now 92 and living in a Cleveland nursing home, is still alive. Kim flies to meet him. Frail but lucid, Ray smirks when shown the case file. "You're digging up ghosts," he says. "I'll talk, but only if you promise no charges." Kim agrees to immunity for his testimony. Ray's story begins to unravel the heist secrets, but he drops a bombshell. Frank wasn't the only one calling shots. Someone else was involved, someone big. The 1968 investigation stalls as leads dry up, but the 2025 reinvestigation reignites the case. Ray's cryptic hint points to a larger conspiracy, possibly tied to the Union or beyond. Who was the anonymous caller? What did Mary Donovan know? And who was the big player Ray mentioned? As Agent Kim digs deeper, the ghosts of 1968 stir, promising a reckoning. Detroit, June 1969. The Grand Street heist investigation has hit a wall. Agent Thomas Reed, now sporting dark circles under his eyes from sleepless nights, sits in the FBI's Detroit office, staring at a board pinned with photos, maps and dead-end leads. The cigarette butt from the Miller Road warehouse yielded no usable evidence in 1968's limited forensic landscape. Frank Donovan, Eddie Crow and the rest of the crew have gone quiet, blending back into their lives. The $3.2 million remains missing and public pressure mounts. Newspapers mock the FBI's failure, while General Motors demands answers for their uninsured loss. Reed, however, clings to one certainty. The anonymous caller's tip about a big player suggests the heist was more than a cash grab. But with no new leads, the case is shelved by early 1970, labeled unsolved. 2025, the cold case cracks open. Agent Sarah Kim's reinvestigation, fueled by modern technology and Ray Sullivan's testimony, shifts the case into high gear. Ray, now 92 and confined to a Cleveland nursing home, reveals critical details under immunity. He confirms Frank Donovan as the mastermind but insists someone else, a union higher-up, provided key information about the payroll routes. "Frank met this guy in secret," Ray says, his voice raspy. "Never told us his name, just called him, the suit. Said he was untouchable." Kim cross-references union records from 1968 and zeroes in on Vincent Malone, a UAW vice president who died in 1985. Malone had a reputation for bending rules and was linked to bookies like Tony Rizzo, whom Reed tailed in '68. Kim's team digs into Malone's financials using 2025's advanced data analytics. They uncover irregular deposits in a shell account tied to Malone's cousin, totaling $150,000 in 1969, suspiciously close to the heist timeline. The DNA from the cigarette butt matched to Ray's family corroborates his involvement, but Ray claims he never smoked at the warehouse. "That's Frank's brand," he says, pointing to a photo of the butt. Kim sends it for reanalysis and a second DNA profile emerges, Frank Donovan's, confirmed through a sample from his daughter, Mary, who reluctantly agreed to testing. Kim visits Mary Donovan again in Ann Arbor. Mary, now 76, frail but sharp, sits in her modest living room, surrounded by photos of her children and grandchildren. Kim lays out the evidence. Ray's testimony, the DNA, Malone's financial trail. Mary's hands tremble as she clutches a cup of tea. "My father was a good man who made bad choices," she says. "After the heist he changed. Paid off debts, got me through college. But he was haunted. Kept saying, it wasn't worth it." Mary reveals a bombshell. In 1978, Frank confessed to her that Vincent Malone blackmailed him into the heist, threatening to expose his gambling debts to the union and ruin his family. Malone took a $500,000 cut, funneled through Rizzo. Kim tracks down Eddie Crow's surviving family. His son, Michael, 50, a mechanic in Toledo, shares a letter Eddie wrote before his death in 1992. In it, Eddie admits his role as the inside man but claims he acted under duress. "Malone knew about my wife's hospital bills," the letter reads. "He said he'd ruin me if I didn't help. I betrayed Bill, my friend, for nothing." The letter names Frank as the planner but doesn't mention Ray or Charlie. Michael adds, "Dad was never the same. He drank himself to death." With Frank and Eddie dead and Charlie Wilson untraceable, likely deceased, Ray Sullivan is the only living conspirator. In July 2025, Kim builds a case for historical prosecution, aiming to close the file rather than jail a 92-year-old. Ray agrees to a public deposition, broadcast on a true crime podcast that's gripped Detroit. He recounts the heist's execution, Frank's meticulous planning, Eddie's sabotage, Charlie's driving, and his own role disabling the van's locks. He confirms Malone's involvement, describing secret meetings at a diner where Malone handed Frank the payroll schedule. "He was the puppet master," Ray says. "Frank was just desperate." The deposition sparks a media frenzy. General Motors, still a corporate giant, issues a statement acknowledging the heist's impact on their 1968 operations. The FBI releases a report detailing Malone's corruption, tarnishing his legacy in the UAW. Kim's work earns her a commendation, but she feels uneasy. "Justice isn't clean," she tells a colleague. "We solved it, but the money's gone and so are most of the players." Mary Donovan attends the deposition, her face etched with grief. She speaks to reporters afterward, "My father stole to save us, but it broke him. He lived with guilt every day." She donates her family's savings, suspected remnants of Frank's cut, to a Detroit charity for factory workers. Bill Martinez's widow, now 82, learns of Eddie's betrayal through the podcast. "Bill never suspected," she says tearfully. "He trusted Eddie like a brother." The revelation reopens old wounds for her family. Ray, facing no charges, spends his final months in the nursing home, unburdened but isolated. "I thought the money would change everything," he tells Kim during a follow-up visit. "It just made us ghosts." He dies in October 2025, leaving a small journal confessing minor details, including how Charlie fled to Canada in 1969, never to be found. A month after the deposition, Kim receives an anonymous package at the FBI office. Inside is a faded Polaroid of a man resembling Vincent Malone, standing beside a stack of cash in an unmarked room, dated 1969. A note reads, "He got away with it." Kim's team traces the package to a Detroit post office but finds no sender. The photo suggests Malone may have kept more of the loot than anyone knew, possibly stashing it offshore before his death. The lead goes cold, leaving a lingering question. Did Malone have another accomplice who stayed silent all these years? The Grand Street heist is officially closed in December 2025, with the FBI concluding that $2.7 million of the $3.2 million was either spent or lost. The case becomes a cautionary tale in criminology classes, highlighting greed, betrayal, and the long shadow of crime. For Kim, the victory is bittersweet. She visits the Grand Street curve, now a gentrified strip with coffee shops and lofts. Standing where the van was ambushed 57 years ago, she wonders about the anonymous caller from 1968. Was it Charlie covering his tracks? A jealous rival in the union? Or someone closer to Malone? The story ends with Mary Donovan at her father's grave, laying flowers. "You tried, Dad," she whispers. The heist gave her a future but cost Frank his soul. The $3.2 million, like so many dreams, vanished into the cracks of Detroit's industrial sprawl, leaving only ghosts and unanswered questions. The Grand Street heist is laid to rest, but its echoes linger. Justice, imperfect and delayed, reveals the human cost of greed. Yet the missing money and the mystery of the suit's true reach ensure the story will haunt Detroit's memory, a puzzle never fully solved.